Welcome back from the newsroom. Cameron Feeling continues. It's time for Old is Gold. Today, we turn the spotlight on a rare kind of genius. A man who did not just sing Africa, he wrote it, preserved it, and projected it to the world. His name is Francis Bebey. Born in 1929 in Douala, Cameroon, Francis Bebey grew up in a home where discipline, storytelling, and music were part of his daily life. His father, a Protestant minister, exposed him early to both books and rhythm, two worlds he would later unite in extraordinary ways. But Bebey's journey did not stay in Cameroon. He studied mathematics, then traveled to Paris and New York, training in broadcasting and communication, and eventually worked in a radio. Yet beyond degrees and jobs, Bebey was observing something deeper: how Africa was seen and how it could represent itself. In music, he chose a different path. At a time when many African artists leaned towards Western imitation, Francis Bebey began to redefine the sound of African music. He blended traditional rhythms, makossa influences, classical guitar, and early electronic instruments like synthesizers and drum machines, and you cannot forget his flute. Long before it became a global practice, Francis Bebey was blending music. He played instruments like the pygmy flute, bringing indigenous sounds into modern composition. The result was music that felt both ancient and futuristic.
It's a bamboo flute playing only one note. That's the only note you can get out of that flute. But the pygmies, who are the inventors of this flute, are clever people. And I'm glad to tell about the pygmies around the world, because when I was a little boy, they taught me that the pygmies were savage people just because they live in the forest, which isn't true. You know, it's not just because you live in the forest that you're a savage man or a savage woman.
Across more than 20 albums, Bebey wasn't chasing trends. He was building a cultural identity through sound. But music was only one half of his genius. Francis Bebey was also an accomplished writer. He authored novels, poetry, children's books, and essays on African culture. His novel, Agathamudio's Son, earned a major African literary prize and remains one of the continent's most respected works. Through his writing, Bebey captured African life, humor, tradition, and change, not as something exotic, but as something intelligent, complex, and universal.
Ce n'est pas mon fils, on le voit bien. Ce n'est pas mon fils, même si c'est le tien.
Beyond performance and publishing, Bebey also worked with UNESCO in Paris, where he contributed to the research and preservation of African music. But his vision was never about preservation alone. He believed African culture must evolve, not remain frozen in the past, that it could modernize without losing its soul. In his philosophy, one idea stands out: the future of Africa is not behind, it is ahead, and that belief shaped everything he created. Francis Bebey passed away in 2001 in Paris, but his voice did not fade. Today, his music is being rediscovered globally. His writings continue to be studied and celebrated, and a new generation of artists draws inspiration from his works. He's remembered not just as a musician or a writer, but as a cultural architect. Francis Bebey showed the world that African creativity is not limited to one form. It can be heard, it can be read, and most importantly, it can lead. His story reminds us Africa does not just have stories to tell, it has voices powerful enough to shape the future, and sometimes those voices could come from Douala, Cameroon, just like Francis Bebey's. Old is gold.
There are people in town, men, crazy people in town, eating bread and butter and honey and drinking black coffee cola. They believe we are wild, men, they believe we are wild, just because we don't use any money and we drink no coffee cola. But if you could go and see how they live, then you discover how savage they are, so much wilder than we. There are people in town, man, we are people in town, eating bread and butter and honey and drinking black coffee cola. Money is what they like, most money is what they like, and people who have plenty of money belong to high society. But if you could go and see how they live, then you'd discover how savage they are, so much wilder than we.